if you found yourself in an ongoing struggle to sleep, you are going to want to know that the deficiency that causes this is not one of vitamin D or magnesium, but rather it's the lack of education and self-kindness that leads there. And I know this can at first sound disappointing. You simply wanted somebody to tell you what to take so that you will sleep. But if you stick around and learn, it can change not only your sleep, but your life for better. Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a sleep physician turned sleep coach and online educator. And in this episode, we're going to answer a very common question, which is what deficiency causes insomnia? Now, I actually did a YouTube short on this topic a while back, and it did get quite a bit of attention. And I know what the common objections are to the way I teach. So I thought I could expand on this in this episode of our frequently asked sleep questions series. So again, yes, the question here is what deficiency causes insomnia? And now I think where we want to start is to look at what may have led you to ask the question of whether you have a deficiency and if that is causing insomnia, and if so, what deficiency that is. In all likelihood, if you've asked yourself this question, you've had a struggle with sleep. You found that you are spending a lot of time at night awake. It takes a long time to fall asleep. You wake up frequently. You do not feel refreshed. You may have been worried, anxious, felt drained, exhausted. It has been a real struggle. And in the struggle, we naturally start to problem solve. Whenever we have a problem, our brain wants to solve it for us. And naturally, it starts to query, to ponder, to investigate what could be the culprit, what could be the cause of these difficulties we have been in. And a natural question in the situation of stress and confusion and bewilderment is, could it be a deficiency? Is it possible that my vitamin D levels are low, or my iron levels, or selenium levels, or magnesium levels, or is there some type of deficiency in my body that is creating the struggle? That is like the root of that question. And you may already sense where I'm going with this, which is this to point us in the direction of like, it is the thought that something is wrong with us that is actually driving this entire struggle. And we'll talk more about that in a second and see why educational sleep-kindness is so helpful. But first, the most common objection to this is someone saying like, well, what if there actually is some deficiency in our body that is impacting our sleep, regardless of how we think about that, our mental state, our mindset? Can't that be the case? And I would answer it this way. The question is it possible that low magnesium levels, for example, has some impact on our sleep, regardless of how we think of it? And I would say yes, but that impact will not have any significance on your life experience. There have been studies on health and wellness for decades, and if it was true that some deficiency that we're often unaware of has a big impact on our sleep, and that we can simply remedy that by supplementing our diet or taking some pill, it would have been known by now. If like zinc or iron or magnesium, if a deficiency that really had a big impact on our sleep, it would have been well known at this point, and we could have just, and we would have known what to look for and how to supplement that. So my point here is that there is no big impact on sleep from any of these type of deficiencies. But could there be some impact? It's possible. Maybe if we have like really low iron levels, it will cause us to have 1 minute less REM sleep per night. Perhaps maybe there are some very, very small levels of impact there on our sleep from deficiencies, but we wouldn't even know about it. we wouldn't even tell the difference. It would have zero impact on our life experience. So a deficiency in one of these type of substances in our body is not what creates the ongoing struggle that we call insomnia, that not only impacts our night, but our day as well. And that leads us to this other question of whether the idea that something is wrong with our sleep and the pursuit of the culprit can impact our life experience. And it can very much. It can become like the essence of our life experience. Our whole entire life can be consumed by the pursuit of trying to fix our sleep. And why can that happen? Well, our brain's a survival machine. And anytime it senses that there's a threat, it's going to put that in focus. That's going to be its priority. Its priority is always going to be safety. And it can start very, quote unquote, innocently. We have one night where we sleep very little for some reason, and our brain goes like, oh my gosh, why do we sleep so little? And that's kind of the moment when it starts thinking of not sleeping as a threat, right? And the next night, it can go like, oh, I hope we're safe now. I hope we're okay. I hope nothing happens. And just because we're now in a higher state of alertness, we have a second night of not sleeping well, right? And now the brain can go into kind of full on panic mode and like, oh my gosh, not sleeping is a real threat. Not seeing that it is its own mislabeling of wakefulness that is keeping us awake. And now when we're awake, we feel really threatened, and that sense of threat keeps us awake. And in this, in this struggle, as we talked about before, we often look for a solution, something to do. And that tends to be tricky as well, because we intervene, we do something, hoping that will make us sleep. But see, sleep is effortless. It's a passive process. When we intervene, that introduces effort into an effortless process. And we have a continuation of our struggles with sleep, with the difference that now we have done something. We did something and that didn't work, which makes our brain think even more that there's a threat here, right? So the pursuit of the fix is really part of what keeps us struggling. And so to answer the question of what deficiency causes insomnia, I would say that the word deficiency is a little kind of harsh, but we can reword that as like, what is it that we don't have that keeps us struggling with sleep? Well, I would say it is education. That's number one. And also often self-kindness is something that we don't have that is really, really helpful. And what I mean by this, well, education is really about understanding why we have found ourselves in this ongoing self-perpetuating struggle with sleep. And it's what we just talked about. It is simply coming from our brain mislabeling not sleeping as a threat, as a danger, something that needs to be fixed, that keeps us in the loop of insomnia. And understanding this is incredibly helpful, because then so much of our anxiety can dissipate simply from understanding what's happening. We go from thinking, oh, something's really wrong with me, I have a unique and special case and nobody else asked me, to like, oh, this is it. It's just a simple misunderstanding. There are many, many people who've been in this loop before, and just understanding what's happening is incredibly liberating. So education, I think, is number one. But self-kindness is also really, really, really helpful. If we think that something is wrong with us, that we have a deficiency, that in a way can be something of like a self-critical thing. In reality, what's happening is, again, our brain is just trying to keep us safe, and it has just kind of committed an error, an error of judgment. It has mistaken something as a threat when it wasn't, but it's doing it's doing everything it can to just keep us safe. And so when we see this, we can be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have to criticize myself or be hard on myself. And oftentimes we don't really know that we're self-critical. We just go like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I sleep? Why can't I get this? But those expressions show that we think, again, something is wrong. We're sort of critical of ourselves. We think something is wrong. There's some deficiency there. And that can be an invitation for self-kindness, when we instead go like, nothing is wrong with me. I'm totally fine. There's just been a little misunderstanding, and we're really supportive and gentle with ourselves. And that is incredibly helpful. So when we no longer have these quote unquote deficiencies, when we no longer have a lack of educational self-kindness, then we understand and we're kind of gentle with ourselves, and that really, really leads where we want to be, a place of peaceful mind and peaceful sleep. And that's why I said in the intro here that although it initially can sound disappointing that there isn't this particular deficiency that we can just remedy with this supplement, which of course would in a way be wonderful, because then your struggle could end really easily and really soon, and that I wish that for everyone. But reality is that is not the case. And all of that, again, can be like disappointing at first. You can see that when we learn about these universal truths about around self-understanding and seeing how our emotions work, our thoughts work, taking this like deep look inside and seeing that there's so many things in life that we cannot control, and that the more we attempt to control things that are outside of control, the more struggle we have. And we see that the more we let go of attempting to control these things, the more peace of mind and bliss and serenity we have. Well, those are lessons that will help for the rest of your life, can truly change your life. And you can start right with this question of what deficiency causes my insomnia. I hope this made a lot of sense to you. I'll see you in the next one. Hi, it's me, Daniel, and I hope you found a ton of value in the video that you just watched. As you can probably tell, we share everything freely on our YouTube channel about what leads us from insomnia to a place of peaceful sleep for the rest of our lives. But it can take some time and bandwidth to go through all the free content to find the answers to the questions that you have. And this is why we have already done curation for you in our Insomnia Immunity program and in BedTyme. So if you want to save some time and bandwidth, those are great options for you. In our Insomnia Immunity program, we have a video-based curriculum. In BedTyme, we have a text-based curriculum. Either way, what really matters is that the content is laid out in a logical fashion, in a stepwise fashion, where every step takes you closer to that place of peaceful sleep for the rest of your life. If this sounds like something you'd like to explore, head over to our website, thesleepcoachtool.com. And if you decide to join and let us guide you forward, we can't wait to see you on the other side.